SimWorld presents Around the Table with E and the Fatman.
What's up, everybody? It's me, it's the B.O.B., and I'm here with my man E. How are you doing today?
Hey, y'all, and hey, Bob. I am doing fine. We have the fall and the holiday season upon us.
Oh,
exciting.
Yeah. Christmas, It's Christmas time, right? It's the middle of October.
Well, those lights will be coming up in about 2 weeks, actually. But it should be mostly Halloween decorations that you're seeing around your neighborhood, if it's anything like mine.
Absolutely, which obviously is a great segue into what today's Around the Table is going to be about. Around the Table, pretty much at this point, we pretty much talk about whatever we want to talk about, and you guys are going to listen or you're not. Today's episode is going to be our Halloween episode.
Ooh, scary.
A little bit. I don't know. I feel a little vulnerable on this one.
All right. I'll carry you through this. Where you just see one set of footprints, that's when I was carrying you, Bob.
and then whenever we see that you're in the hospital because your back's broken.
Well, it's true. Those impressions might get a little bit deeper in the sand at that point, but that's all good.
Well, let's start it off with a real, I guess, a simple, maybe it's simple for you, won't be simple for me. What are your favorite scary movies?
So I'm going to play my old man card here, and I'm going to throw out 3 that came out between 1980 and 1990. And the oldest of the bunch, old classic, Jack Nicholson, Stephen King, The Shining.
Oh,
yeah. And Stanley Kubrick, I shouldn't fail to mention as well. Absolute classic. Fantastic film. It's weird because it doesn't give you jump scares, yet it is legitimately frightening.
Yeah.
And the other thing I will say is, being an avid reader, I have also read, King's novelization of the book. Well, it wasn't the novelization; the book came first, so it's the other way around. But King's novel, which is, and even if you've seen the film version of The Shining, would recommend it because it's different. The movie's different from the book, and they're both kind of good in their ways. Would recommend that.
Great author. I don't want to cut you off. Let's just say great author. I don't know if I've ever read or seen something. There are movies out there with bad reviews of his books, but I don't think there's anything. I've never seen or read anything bad from him.
Well, I read the Tommy Knockers, and that's when that's right when King was coming off the booze and pills and whatnot. And it was a transitory time and not a great book necessarily. But no, I've actually read a ton of King. Appropriate to talk about him for a second while we're doing the Halloween theme. And I actually think the guy. I mean, obviously, you can consider horror a genre or whatever that he clearly is skilled in, but really an amazing short story writer. There are 2 books which are collections of his short stories. One called Night Shift, and I think the other is 4 Past Midnight. Huh. Although Everything's Eventual is another good collection of shorts of his, but fantastic short story writer. If you like short stories, which do have the advantage of being consumable in a 15 to 20 minute, usually kind of bite size, would heavily recommend that.
Yeah. And didn't he? I feel like it was something I've read before, and I feel like maybe a lot of authors do this, but to branch out more. Didn't he write some books as somebody else so that stigma wasn't stuck to him?
He did. He wrote some books under the name Richard Bachman, which eventually he got outed, basically. But yes, he did do that. You can still find some books out there authored by Richard Bachman, and that is Stephen King.
Well, do you want to give all 3 yours at once, or you want to bounce back and forth?
No. I'll clean up my section and pass it off to you. So I threw out The Shining. The second one, which again, highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Really recommend it for almost anybody who has, who can tolerate a horror movie at all. And that is 1982, The Thing. John Carpenter. McCready, that was the lead character's name.
Yep.
Who later became Snake Plissken in the Escape from New York movies, but that's a whole different story. The Thing, it's, it's still, I said, written or made in 1982, so 40 years old now, but even with the old special effects and everything else. You're just tense throughout that entire movie. And the premise of it, of not knowing who is who and what is what throughout the whole thing. And the ending is fantastic, in my opinion. We talked a little bit about ambiguous endings with the Sopranos last episode. The Thing gives you that a little bit as well, and I love it.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think? I have my theory, and I think it's the common theory out there. What's your theory on the ending?
Oh, I think Childs is one of those things.
Okay.
And I think that it wants to freeze at that point. It would be happy just to, go back into the ice, freeze, wait to be rediscovered, and have another crack. So, yeah. Now, if anything happens between McCready and Childs at the end, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that, but Childs is one of those things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then my final movie, throw it out there, 1990, so getting a little bit more up to date, but obviously still 30 years in the past. A movie called Jacob's Ladder, much less well known. Tim Robbins is the main and the star in it, and it's more kind of mental. There are, actually it's pretty good with the disturbing imagery and even some jump scares or whatever in that. But ultimately, the terror and the what the movie is about is much more on a psychological level. Won't give anything more away than that in case anybody does want to watch it. But those would be my three from 1980 to 1990: The Shining, The Thing, and Jacob's Ladder.
And the only one that I can say that I haven't seen, or actually, I have never seen The Shining all the way through. And that's more of just I will eventually.
Okay.
There's no reason other than the fact that it's really hard for me to sit through movies anymore as I get older. I don't know, but
okay,
yeah. But for me, it's a little hard for me because I am a big baby when it comes to scary stuff. I don't want to watch it because I don't like that. Like some people get, I don't know, some people get a thrill out of the being scared and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to have, I'm sitting here the whole time wondering who's behind me.
and it goes to show, don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, you're Big Bob. You're a big dude, imposing dude, and cowering in a corner while you're watching,
Yeah, I'm telling you, I even just in general, I'm not necessarily afraid of the dark, but I always like there to be a little bit of a light somewhere because I can't see what's if it's dark. I can't see what's there.
Who knows what's there? Who knows?
But so for me, if I try and break it down to my three, I'm just gonna say three scary movies that really impacted me. I am really. And I'm going to go a little bit of a different route. I really can't deal with body horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard.
Movies, Saw movies and all that stuff.
So I can't. So Saw, Hostel. I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't do that. It's
no. Not my thing either. No, I agree. It's not my thing. Not my thing. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, but it's like it's weird because like I could watch like an action movie with blood and stuff everywhere, but there's just something about it being it being realistic in the sense that those things could really, really happen. Like
sure.
I'm not worried about walking outside right now and a giant monster coming out of nowhere.
Right. But being kidnapped and somebody puts a bear trap device on your head or something, it's like, no, sir.
Or would I be able to take a knife and cut out a key from behind my eye?
Oh.
Absolutely not.
I'm going to answer that question right now. No. Well, I'm a dead man. Shoot.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So like the Saw series, the Hostel series. I actually was going to mention. I think The Thing is a very, very good movie.
Yeah.
It was before my time, but I think it's another Stephen King. You're going to have to help me with the Dreamcatcher. Okay. I think it's Dreamcatcher.
Oh,
right.
Okay. Well, there's Firestarter with a very young. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her name? She has a talk show host now. Anyway, let me think of King movies. Firestarter, Carrie, Salem's Lot. Was there one called Dreamcatcher?
I think Dreamcatcher.
Oh, I think you're right. Actually, I take it back now. Oh, I know
redheaded dude. Was like the main
Yeah,
character. It was like one of those character. It was like one of those things where like they couldn't see the monster, but the monster would like go from body to body, or I don't think they could see
yeah.
him. Like that was actually one of my favorite. It wasn't necessarily a scary movie, but it's interesting. But yeah, please keep me away from the body horror stuff.
Fair enough.
But so
Fair enough.
I know we talked about our favorite like scary movies, but
Mhm.
do you have like a favorite Halloween movie just in general? It doesn't have to be scary.
Halloween themed. I mean, the obvious touchstone there is going to be Jamie Curtis and the Halloween movies, right?
Yeah.
Michael Myers and all the rest of that. No, and conversely, you mentioned that you were a little bit past the time with Dreamcatcher and The Thing, etc. I was almost a little bit too old to have been adequately raised on Goosebumps or things like that too, which I know again are kind of Halloween centric in all of that. So no, not necessarily one that really kind of comes down to, really anchoring on Halloween itself resonates for me. Is that true for you too, or you got something?
For me, and it's probably because of the time that I grew up. There's a lot of kids stuff whenever I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know, can we consider like Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie?
Yeah, you can. Tim Burton, and that's a good call, actually. Yeah, I mean, I certainly have seen that. No, that's a good one. I like that you threw that one out there.
Yeah,
I think that definitely counts.
yeah. But as a kid, the one thing I can say to get away from the body horror stuff, when I was a kid, I was absolutely terrified of Chucky. Absolutely terrified.
Chucky doll. You're not the only one out there. I know. I mean, I have personal friends who can say the same thing that I know. I remember girl I went to college with actually absolutely terrified of that thing.
My mom knew, like, it was like she had a sixth sense when I was a kid. Like, if a commercial was coming on to promote Child's Play, it was like half a second and she's changing the channel because she knew when I was a kid I was going to start bawling. So I'm just like, I didn't know. I fell apart.
Well, hey, talking about being a kid, so going trick or treating when you were a kid and all of this, maybe instead of three, we'll just do one apiece. Least favorite, most favorite. Did you have a favorite, Halloween candy that you're hoping to get in your little jack-o'-lantern container, your candy, your candy container?
Every holiday, I want whatever that specific holiday's Reese's cup is.
You can't beat a Reese cup.
No, and I feel like I could be wrong, and I know it's a thought out there. I feel like that the ones that are specific, like the Halloween ones, the Easter ones, the Christmas ones, they have to make them for that particular season. So I feel like they're better,
fresh.
Maybe because they're fresher. Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right about that. Okay.
What about you?
Well, I mean, I think I would have to remember most fondly getting the individual tiny Twix. You wouldn't get the full candy bar with the two Twix in it. It'd be this little tiny Twix the size of your finger, but always enjoyed the Twix. With a little bit of the Reese cup thing going on. I mean, a Reese cup always stars. You're not going to turn down a Reese cup.
No.
I'd eat one. I'd eat one right now.
Absolutely.
But and of course your mini Snickers probably make the holy trinity of Halloween candy that you want.
Yep.
But then the dreaded results, I think for every kid, was a Tootsie Roll. That was the last thing you wanted to show up in there. But for me specifically, I don't enjoy licorice either.
No, absolutely
so getting
not.
some red vines or something like that, it's like, well, these are going right in the trash.
So I could deal with the red licorice. I can't do black licorice at all.
The black licorice is even worse. I won't eat either, but the black licorice is worse. I agree.
Anybody that says that they like black licorice, they're a liar. Period. I don't believe them at all.
Well, we also have a little bit of a special logo, visual treatment for this week. So I like the fact that although there is an age gap between us, it appears that we were both photographed wearing our Halloween costumes in about 1970, 68 maybe. But what was your favorite or most well-remembered costume as a kid on Halloween?
I was always more of and I can't remember a lot whenever I was a kid, but I usually just threw a mask on and called it a day. But my sister, whenever she was a year younger than me, My aunt used to always do a haunted house for her.
That's cool.
And invite all her friends over and everything like that. I dressed up one year as a gatekeeper, like a door. Like I was at the front door with a giant knight type helmet on and a scythe and stuff like that. I think that was probably my favorite, just because of what we were doing. Like it was a show.
Yeah, that's a cool one. That's a good one. That's nice.
Oh yeah,
good, and give your aunt some credit too.
Oh yeah, for sure. What about you?
Well, in a similar way, excuse me. The picture of me this week, you will see me wearing a homemade Riddler outfit that my mom made for me. And to give her some credit, for sure, she, that is the big thing. Is like I didn't do a whole lot of store bought. My mom would put together something. And what's not shown, but which I remember I even went to something and won like a second or third place prize for my outfit. But I dressed up as Napoleon Bonaparte. So I had an 18th century sort of French military kind of look going on. And I remember to tuck my hand into my waistband or whatever, which is like the classic Napoleon move. It's like if Hitler had his mustache, Napoleon had his hand in his waistband thing. Like that was his signature look. So I pulled that off. And I remember that probably because I won something. I was I finished top 3 at least nice. For that costume. So yeah, my Napoleon outfit, I would say.
How old would you say that you were in the Riddler picture?
Oh my God. 7, 8, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. So, and what are you in yours? Are you like a Pokemon creature or something?
Oh God. So I reached out to my mom to go through pictures, and she found it. So that particular picture, when I reached out to her, she said she didn't have a whole lot of pictures for me. I'm a bunch of grapes.
Is that what it is? All right. I thought maybe you were like I said, like Pokemon characters. What came to mind for me? Like you're a Squirtle or something.
So I don't think Pokemon was out yet.
Okay, there you go.
Fair enough. Think what do we say? Pokemon. Just a real quick search. I think maybe in America was it it was 96 in America. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually thought it was a lot earlier than that. No, so I think she said I was 2 in that picture, which I don't believe her. I don't believe her because I thought I was 5, but if I was at my grandparents' house like she said I was, then 2 or 3 years old is probably the oldest that I would have been.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hats off to both of our moms.
Oh yeah,
putting in the effort for sure. And we've got photographic proof.
Oh yeah. So
now, that's a great segue. No, let me take it. I love a smooth segue, and I just came up with one on the fly. So, talking about photographic proof, Bob, have you ever had anything which you would rate as a real or possibly real supernatural encounter, something you can't explain?
So I think, and I feel like a lot of people probably have this, but they just ignore it or brush it off. I'll say that I don't not believe, but there's never been something right in my face that I can say 100% yes. But I feel like I see things
shadow people.
Yeah, and I'll actually give a recent example. It was actually, I believe it was the end of last week at work or the beginning of this week. I was in the hallway. And all my coworkers were in our one coworker's office, and I was standing there, and I swear out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something, and I looked, and it looked like somebody walked from one office to another, but both of those doors were shut.
Okay.
And it looked like somebody, because I felt like there was a hand or a lanyard, I seen someone actually moving, and I told them, and the one girl threw herself up against the wall, and she was freaked out. And my other coworker said that the girl that worked there before felt like the place was haunted, or said that the place was haunted. But I see I feel like I see animals, it could be past cats that I've had or something. I feel like I see animals or things of that size moving, but it's you look and it's gone.
Okay.
And I will
Yeah.
say, my wife, I don't think she cares about me saying this. When she was younger, her and her brother, before he had passed away, they both had the same experience, I believe, at this one particular house that they had when they were growing up. Is there was a just people like, and she specifically remembers people looking. I think she said they looked like they were dressed up for like a party, older time though. Walking down the hall, walking to one of the rooms for a party, and it happened multiple times. And I believe her brother also seen this happening.
All right, that's legit creepy. That's legit creepy. And also, not so creepy, but Bob, you and I are largely paralleling here. In that I don't think you might even be more kind of sensitive to things than me. I don't regard myself that way. But you might be. My wife, I think, is definitely more in tune with this. I have never really had any kind of an experience or something I can point to that, I would say was, supernatural in nature. But I would also say that I don't specifically believe, but I don't specifically not believe in things either. And, my attitude is kind of be respectful of it, I suppose you
absolutely.
could say. And to quickly kind of explain that, back where I grew up in a rural part of Ohio, I was talking to a friend of mine I grew up with back there who still lives there, who was telling me that, a bunch of people had gone over to this purportedly haunted house. I think even like a camera crew from one of those cable TV shows about hauntings was there to do the thing or whatever. Like somehow they got invited. Like, hey, do you want to go? And he's like, they all laughed at me, but I'm not going over there. And I said I wouldn't either. It's like, I'm not saying I believe in any of it, but I'm also not going to go over there and poke it with a stick. See if I can tick it off, maybe. I'm staying out of that.
Yeah.
So, more just kind of like, no, nothing I can really kind of say I've had direct experience with myself, but just keeping a generally respectful attitude about the whole thing is my modus operandi.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Well, let's kind of, obviously we're more
we haven't
of
talked hoops.
Yeah, we're more of a
Yeah.
sports. We're more of a sports kind of thing. We like I said at the beginning, we just talk, and if people listen and they like listening to us, they'll listen.
That's right.
So, is there and feel free to explain this however you would like. Is there the most scary or the scariest player that what's the scariest player you've ever seen?
I mean, for me, going back to the just, much more, frankly, violent world of 1990s basketball, NBA basketball, when, guys are doing things that you'd get long suspensions for now, and it's just a common foul. In terms of like thinking about scary, in terms of like, I don't want to be on the court with that person under any circumstances, I'll go back to my Knicks fandom and pick out Charles Oakley. Oakley was a beast. He had sharp elbows. He was strong. He had a mean streak. And I just can't imagine wanting to play a guy like that. So he, for me, fits the mold of just like big old enforcer down there that, you see that team coming up on the schedule and it's like, oh no. So that's who I'll pick for that.
And
how about you?
My answer will get worn out because I will stick till it to the day that I die. It's Shaq. The size, the power, he is what make him the new logo.
You don't have to convince me. I don't think Shaq is the greatest player of all time. I don't think he's necessarily in the discussion for that, but I do think that he is the greatest player at his peak of all time. I think peak Shaq was unstoppable.
Yeah,
it was just an absolute force of nature that couldn't be stopped.
How do you stop? He had to let you stop him, or you just had to slap him on the back and make him go to the free throw line, and then he'll beat himself.
Foul him a bunch, and that's what people started to do. That's right. Right.
Well, outside of the scariest player, what's like the scariest or the most frightening thing that you've ever seen on a basketball court?
This is my favorite question to answer of our set today, which is So back when I was a younger man and in college, I was working on TV coverage and radio coverage for games, basketball games, football games, and everything. But was part of a college basketball game involving the University of Kentucky. Do you happen to remember Jamal Mashburn? That name ring any kind of a bell? Yeah. So he had a decent NBA career. Wasn't a big star, but Mashburn was a huge collegiate star for a Kentucky that was kind of rising again from the ashes at the time. He was one of the first really big names that they got back after they got an NCAA death penalty ruling way back when. But Mashburn, in addition to appropriately for our show being nicknamed the Monster Mash, went about at the time, I'm going to say 6'8", 240 pounds. And because I'm with like the journalists and the video people, I am right on the court, right behind this table. And he came flying for a loose ball and crashed into my table where I'm like kind of trying to hold him up to keep him off of me. But he is definitely the biggest human being still to this day in my life that has ever come like just barreling towards me. And it was legitimately frightening. I felt like a deer in the headlights. I couldn't move and didn't know what to do. So Jamal Mashburn and his bulk coming full speed at me is probably the most frightening thing I've ever dealt with on a basketball court. Well, how about you to end it up?
Well, so I'll just real quick. That reminded me of, I don't know if you remember this clip in the NBA. It was when Shaq was on the Suns. It happened. Yes. I think it happened twice in the same. It may not have been the same game, but the one time he went fly. Because he hustled and he flying over the sidelines, dove, landed on the fans. The second time it happened, everybody moved.
Everybody clears out. Yep.
But all right, for me, and it's actually, I think it fits pretty well with this episode and how, like I said, the body horror stuff was just not something I can do. Oh man, Kevin Ware's injury at Louisville.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was horrible. It was horrible. You felt bad for him. I mean, he came back from it. Obviously, never really got to the same level. I don't think.
No, he didn't.
I believe he transferred from Louisville. He spent a year rehabbing and stuff, and I think he may have transferred. I can't remember for sure, but yeah, that. Oh man, just the bone sticking out of the. Oh, I can't.
Yeah, that part will always be clear in our memory.
And that's
right.
I can deal with concussions and people getting knocked out, but it's like when you give me a Kevin Ware, a Joe Theismann injury, I'm just like I can't do it.
A little bit too much.
A little bit, yeah. Well, it looks like it's about that time.
I think so. All right, but this has been fun. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad we got a fun seasonal logo for this one too. We'll probably get back to something a little bit more normal next weekend, but gave our listeners some time to watch those movies before Halloween actually hits too. So all good.
Oh yeah, well, everybody, we appreciate you listening to us. I almost said I'm E. He's the Fat Man. I don't think that sounds right. I'm the Fat Man. That's E. This is Around the Table. Have a good rest of your day.
Stay safe out there, folks.